like our audio is working, and thank you for letting us know that you can hear us. I appreciate that. You guys are fabulous. We are so glad you're here. So welcome to today's free webinar, How to Qualify Prospects Like a Pro. This is one of the things that we get asked a lot about in office hours with our members, and we thought we would share this with everyone. Since this is probably a problem that is pretty widespread, not just among our members, but among everybody in the aviation industry and other industries as well, right, John?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this webinar is for you if you sell something, right? If you are in aviation or a related industry, if you have some leads, so today we're not going to be talking about actually acquiring more leads or getting more customers. We have lots of webinars in which we do that, so today's a little bit of a departure. We're actually talking about narrowing that list today. If you are tired of wasting time and materials on tire kickers, then you are in the right place, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're really glad that you're here, and this is something that we all struggle with as salespeople, and being in the industry. We want to make friends. We want to have good relationships with everyone, whether they are buyers or not. And today we're going to be talking about how to stay friends with people while still disqualifying them as leads and not wasting a lot of time and resources on people who are not going to buy your products and services. So what we'll cover today, what do you need to know to qualify a prospect? And the three things that we'll cover in general will be how to quantify or how to determine if they have the interest, the resources, and the authority to buy from you. And we'll talk about those things specifically. So if you do this right, you will have a smaller list of prospects to work with, but they'll all be more likely to buy. So instead of having an email list of 10,000, you may only have an email list of 1,000 or even 100. We actually have clients who have very, very small lists of even less than 100 who make a very good living simply because they are very strategic and very directed about what they do and how they do it. All right, so I'm Paula Williams.
And once you can see this, I'm the guy on the right. I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help all you ladies and gentlemen out there in the aviation world sell more products and stuff.
Exactly. And a big part of that is making sure that you're selling to the right people. This is not mass marketing. This is not Coke or Pepsi. This is not Nike. We don't want everybody with a pulse or a checkbook to be a customer, and neither should you, actually. We'll talk about how to narrow that down. So the first thing that we want to talk about is that we really don't want to pursue any random acts of marketing. So another thing that we didn't mention, we usually do a little housekeeping thing. If you could locate really quickly where the message box is on your GoToMeeting control panel, we're going to be asking some questions. So you may want to, at some points, raise your hand. At some points, you may want to type in a question and other things. And we've got some specific places in this webinar we're going to be asking for your questions, and we'll answer those then. Also, if you would close all of the other windows on your computer, turn off your cell phone and put away all of your other devices. We found that multitasking is highly overrated, right, John?
Yeah, right.
And if you can get this right, if you can get to the point where you're qualifying customers in a really good way, this is going to be the best hour that you spend possibly this year in terms of your business success. So it's a really important topic, and you're really going to get the most out of this if you are listening and taking notes and participating fully. So no random acts of marketing. What we mean by that is you don't want to just randomly broadcast your marketing messages to just anyone. Number one, it doesn't work, and it's a waste of money. Number two, it annoys people. If you get advertisements that are not relevant to you, and especially people in this market who are high net worth, ultra high net worth, very specific, very technical roles in aviation and other things, they expect and deserve to only get messages from you that are very, very highly targeted and very specifically helpful to them. And if you are advertising to too broad of an audience, it annoys them, it wastes your money, and it doesn't do you any good. Okay, so questions so far? We've had a couple of them come in, so let's make sure we stay on top of them.
You keep talking about narrowing the thing. What if I need more leads?
Okay. Andy, thank you for the question. What if I need more leads? If you need more leads, then you have a slightly different problem, and there are different solutions to that. What I would suggest is our January free webinar. I'm sure you can find the replay of that on YouTube, and that one is about prospecting. We also have several others on marketing technology, using social media to expand your list, using direct mail to expand your list. We've got lots of articles and podcasts about expanding your list. So that's good. One note today, you may want to stick around today though, because as we talk about narrowing your list, it gives you a better idea of who you want to go after. So you don't want to be prospecting to just anyone either, right?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Is this webinar for sales or marketing people?
All right.
Sales and or sales or? Sales or, I guess.
For salespeople or marketing people. The weird thing is in aviation, a lot of times the sales and marketing people exchange hats, right? They have interchangeable roles. So, but if your only role is sales, I would say 60% of this is directed 60% at you and 40% at marketing. So if we had to categorize today's topic, that's kind of where it falls. So it should be valuable to both sales and marketing people, and if you wear both hats, you'll love the whole thing.
Great.
Cool. All right. Good on questions?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a quick story about what happens when this goes badly, right? And
make sure it's quick.
This is this is a story about a consultant that shall not be named, who offers 30-minute free consultations like a lot of us do. And there is nothing in the world wrong with giving 30-minute consultations. But as we will discover in today's quick little story, anytime you offer something for free, you want to be very careful about how you put a fence around that. So this was a tax guy, right? Aviation tax guy. And he offered 30-minute consultations on his website. Somebody signed up for it. They sounded like a pretty good prospect. He didn't do a whole lot of research about this person before getting into this 30-minute consultation, just showed up and started the consultation. The guy asked a lot of very specific questions and was very enthusiastic, right? Sometimes that can be a red flag, saying, I really, really love this information. This is fantastic. I haven't been able to find this anywhere. I really love what you're talking about here. So the guy's thinking, well, this is great. Our friend, the tax attorney, is thinking this is fantastic. He's doing a really good presentation. The guy's really impressed. For sure he's going to get a customer out of this deal, right? So far, so good. Okay, so next step is this prospect asks our tax attorney friend for another 30-minute consultation because he says, you know what, this is really great, but you know what, I really need to have one of my colleagues in here because he's going to be part of the group that makes the decision about who we hire for this, and we really want to make sure that it's a good fit, and I really need you to meet this guy. You're going to love him, right? So he says, okay, fine. We'll get on the phone one more time. No big deal. The second guy gets on the phone with the first on a week later or whatever, and they have another really specific conversation. They're asking really good questions. They're giving him a lot of positive feedback. He's feeling like, wow, this is cool. I'm doing a great job of demonstrating how smart I am. This is wonderful, right? Mm-hmm. So far, so good. John knows the end of the story, so that's why he sounds so skeptical. All right. Then they say, you know what, we really need to bring our boss into the situation because he's really the one that makes the purchasing decisions, and we really want to have a good relationship on the long term with the tax attorney. So we're looking to bring someone on, and we want to make absolutely sure that this is a good fit. So they schedule another 30-minute consultation where the boss comes on and asks very specific questions. And once again, everybody's very enthusiastic, very positive, happy with the way things are going. Life is fantastic. Our tax attorney is doing a great job of blowing their doors off and demonstrating his knowledge. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Are things going well, or are they not?
Not.
Not? Okay, why not?
Because they're not going to buy.
Okay. What happened after that third conversation is they disappeared.
That's right.
And this happens an awful lot in the sales process where somebody is trying to get something from you, they get it, and they go away, right? So our tax attorney is following up, sending emails, phone calls, leaving messages, all of those things. It takes a really long time to get a call back, and eventually he finds out the first person that he talks with says, well, we went with someone less expensive. Mm-hmm. Okay, so a lot of times what happens, unfortunately, in the aviation industry as well as in other places, people are fishing for information that they can use in a competitive bidding situation.
Yes.
In other situations, they don't intend to hire anyone. They're just looking for information without any intention of forming a relationship or acting in an up-and-up sort of way. So this guy, who's a tax attorney, he charges what, John? Do you remember? Like
$350 an hour or something.
$350 an hour, and he has just spent. You have to consider a half-hour consultation really takes about an hour out of your day by the time you consider the preparation and the follow-up and everything else. So this guy has spent
over $1,000.
Over $1,000 of billable time on situations that could have been prevented, mm-hmm. right? And on a prospect that had no intention of buying from him. So, terrible, terrible, terrible situation. We can really sympathize because we have done that too. I can tell you as a matter of fact that I have done this dozens of times, been involved in situations where I've given away too much information and had a customer disappear and or just basically hire the least expensive person or have their brother-in-law do marketing with less than stellar results, but still it's something that happens.
So the obvious follow-on question is, how do you prevent that?
Right. Okay. So in Sandler's President's Club, they have a saying, and it's actually a pretty good saying, don't spill your candy in the lobby, right?
True.
So especially if you are in a field where the thing that you offer is information or knowledge, the only thing that you have to sell is your intellectual property, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so you have your box of candy that you bring to the table. You have to hold on to your box of candy and maybe dribble out little samples here and there, but you certainly don't want to spill your candy in the lobby and give everyone everything that they want without any kind of parameters or any kind of a limit on it. So, we do want to be generous, we do want to be helpful, and we do want to give people a good idea of what we can do. And as a consultant, this is where you have to draw a line and say, here's what we offer, here's what we're offering for free, and here's what you have to pay for, right? So good fences make good neighbors. You've heard that saying as well. It's the day of metaphors.
Great.
Right. Okay. So, what you really need to do, especially if you are in a profession where what you offer is information, and we all do, even if we're selling a product, we're selling a solution to a problem. So in a lot of cases, the thing that we bring to the table is the fact that we know a lot about our area of subject matter expertise, right? Okay. So you really need to put a fence around, here's what I'm willing to do for you, and here's what I'm willing not to do for you. And that makes everybody more comfortable at the beginning. So, when we begin a 30-minute consultation with someone, often we'll say, let's talk about your problems. I have X amount of time, and let's do what we can for you in this amount of time. Or, here are the things that I'm willing to discuss. Here's a checklist of information that is on the table for this session, and anything else is going to be additional time or is going to require a relationship, right? And there is nothing wrong with doing that. It makes everyone feel more comfortable, right, John?
Absolutely. Everybody knows where everybody stands.
Exactly. Okay, so questions so far.
Let's see.
And once again, you can type these in at any time, but we're going to answer them on specific slides. So, we're not ignoring you. We promise we'll get to your question before too much time goes by.
So what if my competitors are giving stuff away? Spilling candy on the table, so to speak.
Okay. Like we said, there is nothing wrong with samples, right? As long as those are defined samples. And, this is really funny. When you go by some of the booths at trade shows and they're giving away candy or whatever, and you'll see people go by 3 or 4 times. And John, you do this too. You'll go by a booth where they're giving away candy that you like.
Of course.
A couple of times and pick up candy. So, and that's not a big deal, right? But if you do have to put some kind of a limit on it, and for example, we give tip sheets and we have free webinars, and those are clearly defined. Everyone is welcome to those. We would never discourage anyone from partaking of those things, whether or not they ever intend to buy from us. And the reason is because aviation is a very small community, and every person that we educate elevates the industry and makes people that much more likely to be successful and to make the money to be able to use our services in the future, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so there's nothing wrong with giving stuff away. You just want to make sure that you define it. If your competitors are giving stuff away, then you need to give away something better.
Exactly, but you have to limit it.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So what do I do? Let's see. What do I do if I've already given too much to the prospect?
Ooh. Yeah. Okay.
That's not good.
No. And sometimes the situation can't be salvaged, and this is why having a big pipeline is a really great advantage to you, because you can always write that person off and say, okay, write them off in your head to start with, because it changes your tone, it changes the way that you respond to that person. If you really, really want and need this sale, people can smell it, right? And they will do what they can, and sometimes not intentionally, but it's just one of those subconscious things to get what they can out of you. So if you write off the sale in your head and say, okay, well, I've messed up this particular sales process, but let's move on to the next one. And let's just tie this one off and say, Mr. Prospect, we've had 2 consultations and I've provided this and that and the other thing for you. I really do need a decision from you, a yes or no. Are we going to move forward? And I need to hear by this date. Or I'm going to take you off my calendar and you won't hear from me again. And there is nothing wrong with that either, right?
And we've done that.
Exactly. And then, you just put them back on your email drip list, but you don't spend any more time or money or intellectual space on them. You don't leave them any more messages. You just take it from there. So you can just, kind of cut people off at the knees and, without being rude about it. Once again, you're just defining your worth, and especially, I think, I'm going to be politically incorrect here. And I can say this because I'm a woman, but a lot of women feel really weird about setting boundaries with clients and saying, you know what, this is beyond what you paid for. We're all trained to be nice and to be, to make people happy and all of those things. And I love doing that too. But, at some point you just have to cut it off and say, you know what, my time is worth $3.50 an hour. And if you want me to proceed past this point, that's what it's going to cost to go past that point. And there's nothing wrong with being direct. Okay, cool. We good on questions?
Yep.
It's so far. Okay. Fantastic. So
I think we need another screen just to put the question bar on.
there you go. All right. So as you know, ABCI, and if you've been to any of our other webinars, this is a very familiar slide to you. Phase 1 is advertising and prospecting. Phase 2, building credibility and closing sales. And phase 3, referrals, resells, and recaptures. Now, most of what we're talking about today happens in phase 1 and phase 2. So to get into the guts of how this fits together and how it actually works, we're going to pull back the covers on some of this, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1, when you are prospecting, there are lots of things that you can do to include or exclude certain people, right? And certain groups of people. So search engine optimization, the people that visit your website, the keywords that you use. If you talk with someone who is really, really good with keywords, they will tell you that certain keywords are buying signals as opposed to research signals. So a buying signal would be something like best aircraft charter, as opposed to something like best charter rates, So somebody who's doing research looking for one phrase, where somebody who is looking to buy a ticket might use another phrase, is more likely to use another phrase. So search engine optimization, don't try this at home. We outsource our social media, or we actually partner with someone that is an expert at that. Social media, you want to be in groups. If all of your friends are freebie seekers and people who are placing $29.99 sunglasses ads on your feed, those are people you want to unfriend. Unless they're your brother or your sister or something like that. But in general, the kind of prospects that are on your social media feeds are the kind of people that you're most likely to be doing business with. So, they say that you end up marrying the people that you hang out with. Same thing, you end up doing business with the people that you hang out with. So if you're spending time on social media, you want to make sure that the people that are following you are quality people, and are people who are more likely to be good prospects for you. Trade shows and presentations. If you are presenting at NBAA, there's a barrier to entry there, right? What's the entry fee for NBAA this year?
Oh, I don't know. It exceeds $150, I think.
Mm-hmm. So just to be walking the floor, they have paid something, and they're more likely a member or the friend of a member, or have gotten in the door because of a relationship. So those folks are what we call pre-qualified, as opposed to doing some of the trade shows, maybe in your Chamber of Commerce or neighborhood where people don't have a barrier to entry. So, it's a different crowd and a different way of qualifying. Postcards. When you get a postcard list, we actually had talked with a company called, Wealth Engine. It's kind of a new one to us. We also work with JetNet, AirPack, and a bunch of the others that are specific to the aviation industry. But this one, Wealth Engine, was kind of interesting because all of the selection criteria have to do with income, net worth, and other kinds of things, value of their home, value of other things. So that information is out there, and when you get a prospecting list to send postcards to, you can always scrub against some of those factors depending on who you're buying the list from, right? Okay. And referrals from current customers, we almost always take those without much qualification, because if they were referred by one of our customers, they are most likely a very fabulous person, because all of our customers are fabulous people. No, actually, seriously, all of our customers are people that we enjoy working with. We have that luxury. So the people that they refer tend to be people like them that are great to work with and good to do business with, and honest and straightforward and do what they say, and all of those wonderful things. So that's phase 1. In phase 2, how can we direct that more specifically? And we're going to be talking about this later in the webinar, where we have a track 1 and a track 2 in our phase 2, where phase 1, or actually track 1, would be things like they're getting regular information packages from us, they're getting printed and mailed newsletters, they're getting phone calls on a regular basis. They're getting, anniversary cards and other things. Track 2 would be people who are maybe not so qualified, where all they get is email, simply because that doesn't cost us any more to send additional emails up to a certain point. Or we might send inexpensive mailers like postcards and things to our track 2. So having a multi-track system, we'll talk about the details of that as we go forward. All right, so first of all, when we talk about our 3 steps to qualify a customer, the first step is interest. Do they have an interest in our product and service? And this is the easiest one, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how do we establish that someone has an interest in our product or service? First of all, your call to action in your advertisement. Are you using the right bait? So, for example, we have a trade show checklist. If someone downloads that trade show checklist, it has no value to anyone unless they're actually intending to do a trade show. So, that bait is worthless to someone unless they're a prospect, unless they have the interest. You can use positioning statements in your materials. You can actually say, this product is not for everyone. That's an okay thing to say. Here's an example. This is actually a Richard Branson story, but it's not an aviation story, right? So Richard Branson in the 60s had Virgin Records. It was just starting Virgin Records. He was broke, but just barely making it in the record store business. And this was actually one of the very first record stores. Prior to this in England, if you wanted a record, you'd go to the department store, right? Mm-hmm. And you'd buy your soap and your towels and your dishes and your records from the department store. And there was not really a way to play any of these records or do anything like that. So the Virgin Record Store was revolutionary in that way. So they carried, also revolutionary, they carried a lot of bands that people's parents didn't approve of, right? Do you remember this, John?
No, I don't, but that would be typical of anybody. I mean, parents just don't approve of stuff.
Exactly, right. Okay, so in the process of this, a South African cousin of Richard Branson, his name was Simon Draper, showed up. He had just graduated from college in South Africa, showed up in England in the noble tradition of couch surfing on relatives' couches, right? So he shows up at Richard Branson's doorstep and says, "Hi there, my name is Simon Draper. You don't know me, but I'm your cousin. And, I'm looking at maybe having a career in England, and, I'm not really liking South Africa and the way things are going." And Richard Branson, being the good cousin that he is, took him out for dinner at a Greek restaurant and asked him a bunch of questions. They were getting to know each other. And Simon Draper showed an absolutely encyclopedic knowledge of popular music of the time, right? So Richard Branson offers him a job for £20 a week working in the record store. So Simon Draper, the first thing he does is starts moving things around, redecorating, making all kinds of changes to the Virgin Record Store. And one of the things that he did is he sat in on one of the meetings when they were ordering music from the record labels and things like that. So one of the new albums that was coming out was an Andy Williams record. I don't know if it was this one in particular, but it was an Andy Williams record. And they had always made a ton of money and, done really well on the pop charts and things like that. And Simon Draper told Richard Branson, there will be no Andy Williams in Virgin Record stores. Right? And this was the first fight that they really had. But the question was, why no Andy Williams? It's perfectly fine music. Everybody loves Andy Williams, right? That's the problem with it, is that everybody loves Andy Williams. So they never would stock it because they don't want people's moms coming to Virgin Records, right? Okay, so your product is not for everyone. The way that you advertise is not for everyone. You want to make some distinctions, and that's, where Richard Branson got a lot of his ideas about branding and excluding certain people. He doesn't want anybody in any of his businesses that doesn't have a sense of humor. He doesn't want anybody in any of his businesses that is not an easygoing kind of person to get along with. So, that really kind of sets up what do you expect of your customers, and it's not always just resources and things. It's sometimes interest. So, questions on how to gauge someone's interest?
Well, in no particular order.
Okay.
What if you're attracting too many tire kickers and you don't know why?
Okay, good question. Thank you, Fred. If you are attracting too many tire kickers and you don't know why, what you really need to do is go back to the beginning of who is your ideal customer. It could be that you haven't really defined that well enough in your own head or in the heads of your sales and marketing team. Because if your advertisements are too broad or too general and you have too much Andy Williams going on, then you're going to attract people who are not going to like your product or service for any particular reason. So, if you've defined your ideal customer well enough, that should come across in your advertising. So, go back to your ideal customer profile and see if your advertisements kind of jive with that. One thing I like to do is just, buy somebody a beer or whatever who is your ideal customer and, ask them, does this appeal to you or not? And why? Or maybe take someone who is not your ideal customer, maybe your mom. We're picking on moms today. And, ask them, would this appeal to you and why? And, the answer from someone who's not your ideal customer should be no, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. More questions. Did that help, do you think?
Well, if they say no, then you'll know.
Okay,
so far,
Fred, you're welcome to type back and let us know. Okay?
Let's see. What if you're not getting enough leads in the first place?
Okay.
I thought you talked about that.
Okay. Oh, okay. Why would you want to narrow that down? Got it. Okay, so if you're not getting enough leads in the first place, one thing that you may find is that there's so much vanilla out there. There are so many advertisements for people who are not specific that you may find that if you get more specific, you will actually get more leads. Weirdly enough, just like in Virgin Records, they started having teenagers show up in droves once they limited their audience. If you read Richard Branson's biography, it's just one of the very best things that he did was listen to Simon Draper, even though they really didn't agree to begin with. And the reason is because sometimes excluding people is a way to draw a fence around the community of people that do feel welcome and that do feel, like this product is for them, right?
And those are the people you want.
And those are the people you want, right? Not everybody with a pulse and a checkbook. Okay. All right, so that's interest. Let's talk about resources. Resources is always fun. So you want to talk about, where are you advertising? And you also want to talk about your positioning statements. And, we had talked about this product is not for everyone as a positioning statement, but there's also some positioning statements where you can dog whistle maybe an income level or something like that without being offensive. This is for these kind of people, or this is for people who are of this type and not others. So first of all, where are you advertising? There's a big difference between these two magazines, as an example.
You think?
Yeah. From any publication, you can get a thing called a media kit. And that media kit will have the demographics of their typical readers, including their income, revenue, if it's a company, lots of other types of things. Which is not to say that people who build home-built aircraft are not multimillionaires. There probably are some. But
you're not going to find data on the Falcon 50EX. As an example, in the Home-Built Aircraft magazine, whereas the Robb Report will actually go into nauseating detail about those kinds of aircraft.
Right, exactly. So, if you're getting too many tire kickers, and this is for, who was the person that asked that question about tire kickers?
Oh, that would have been, let's see, Fred.
Fred. Okay, so Fred, where are you advertising? Are you advertising in Home-Built Aircraft when you should be advertising in Robb Report, or vice versa?
Exactly.
Okay? Yeah, you want to think about that. And especially people who are, and there's a lot of people who are kind of shoestringing their advertising right now, and they're using a lot of free banners and a lot of aviation broadcast, the inexpensive advertising. There is a cost to that, and the cost to that is you're going to get people who are attracted to those inexpensive venues, right?
Yes.
Okay. So think about that. Where are you advertising? If you're getting a lot of freebie seekers, it could be that you are a freebie seeker yourself. Not to point fingers or anything. Okay, but you might want to consider your own behavior and think about the way that you're running your business. Okay, what do your ads look like? We've had some units where we've talked about upscale advertising versus mass market advertising. And some of the elements that I want you to consider here, design elements, are number one, the number of colors. If you look at the printing palette, and if they used to print a little strip below an advertisement, and if you work with a printer, they'll tell you what the palette is for a particular ad. Is it using a narrow range of colors or a wide range of colors? And you can see the advertisement on the left, the NetJets ad, uses a narrow range of colors. It's all fairly neutrals and browns. The one on the right side is much higher contrast, lots of colors. The one on the left is very simple. The one on the right is very busy. The one on the left has not many words. The one on the right has lots of words.
Probably too many.
Probably too many, but the point being, it's you can tell, that one of these ads was designed for an upscale audience and one of these ads was not. And you don't have to be a graphic designer to see that, but you do have to be able to talk to a graphic designer. And that's kind of where I am. We hire great artists and designers, and we just have to speak the language. We don't have to actually do it, right?
Exactly.
Okay, and same thing with you. When you're buying work from other people, you don't have to be a great designer to understand some of these concepts and to be able to communicate that with your designer. So if you tell them you want an upscale ad, you'll expect something like what you see on the left, right? Okay. All right, advertising venues. Here's another way of looking at this if you're using some of the more modern technology and tools. This is from the Facebook Ads Manager. And what we did is we looked up the word Cessna as an interest, right? And from here, we can get the household income, the percentage of home ownership, we can get the household size, and we can get the home market value, right? Scary.
Yes, it is. Depends. I mean, from your personal privacy perspective, you think, my God. And it gets worse, actually. But from a marketing perspective, this is outstanding.
Right, exactly. So this is very, very useful information, and there is no excuse for not narrowing your list using this type of information. It used to be only available by subscription from people like Wealth Engine and Axiom and folks like that, but now you can get it for free. It's it's really incredible. It's, those of us who are in marketing are just astonished. We've been stunned for the last 6 months about the kind and variety of data that's available for free that we used to have to pay a ton of money for. All right, so here's another one: spending methods. How many of them use bank cards, any card, bank card, travel and entertainment card, gas or store cards, upscale department store cards, or premium cards, meaning like the black cards or the premier concierge kind of cards? And how many people use primarily cash versus primarily credit card? And that's actually a question that they ask, not really data. So that's a survey question. But they tell you more about each of these things if you like. So yeah, again, information available from the Facebook Ads Manager. You don't have to buy ads to get this information, but it's worth plugging in your list and looking at it. For sure.
You have to be on Facebook, though.
Well, you do have to have a Facebook account. You don't have to be.
That's what I mean by on. You've got to have an account.
Sure.
If you have an account, you'll be on it.
All right. So questions on resources.
Well, getting behind trying to take care of all the audio here.
Oh man. We love you, John. Thank you for your efforts.
Of course.
Okay.
How do you get income demographics from Facebook?
How can you get income demographics from Facebook? Okay, this is where we draw the line and say if you want specific information. No, actually, it's available in Facebook's how-to. If you go to facebook.com/ads manager, there are help screens on just about everything that you can see.
And can you get income information on individuals?
Okay, yeah, I'm going to qualify what I just said and say you have to be using Chrome, the Chrome browser, when you go to or when you go to facebook.com/ads manager in Chrome. Then you see a lot more options than you do otherwise. Okay, and then can you get Facebook this kind of demographic information on individuals? No, you cannot. They actually have a cap or a basement, I guess, of 1,000 people. So if you ask about a list of less than 1,000 people, they will not give you that demographic data because of privacy concerns. So no, you can't go to Facebook and find out, what kind of credit card John used last Thursday. But you can go to Facebook and find out what 1,000 people just like John, what kind of credit card they used, over the last year.
So baseline, I think, is the word you wanted.
Baseline, thank you. Yeah, not basement. Okay. Yeah, good information. And actually that just, for a while they had it wide open, but then they very quickly shut it down and said, we need to have a baseline of at least 1,000 for a particular audience to get that kind of demographic information, because a lot of people got really freaked out, right?
Yeah, and it's a good thing they did.
And rightly so. Okay, moving on. Authority. This is the hardest thing and the last thing that we use to determine whether a person is qualified. And in our example at the very beginning with our tax consultant who got taken for a ride, the problem was that he was talking with someone who didn't have the authority to make a decision. They may or may not have had the resources. They certainly had the interest. But the kicker for that person was authority. And the kicker for us, a lot of times, the thing that gets us, if nothing else does, as careful as we are, is usually authority, because it's the hardest thing to figure out, right?
Just remember IRA, interest, resources, and authority.
Right, but it can be done. So how do we establish if somebody has the authority to buy from us? Job title is a clue.
But only a clue.
But only a clue, right, exactly. Because a lot of people are the president of a company and yet they don't have any control over the checkbook. It happens.
That'd be the CFO.
Right, that's true.
Or somebody else that they assigned it to.
Right. Titles have gotten really weird these days. There's a lot of folks with titles that seem more inflated than they should
Good word.
be. People tend not to have the authority that's ascribed to their job title, but it is a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what someone's job title is, then you have some idea of how much authority they may have to make a purchase or not from you. You can do some social media research, and if they haven't given you a job title and you don't want to ask, you can find out from LinkedIn, or you can often find out from a Google search. Other kinds of things will turn that up. You can also kind of see from the types of interactions that they're having on social media, does this seem like a person that is buying and selling, hiring people, firing people, making decisions and other things like that, because a lot of that stuff ends up being reported on or being in the media. Aviation's a small town, so gossip is a wonderful thing. Okay, indirect questions. How many books or information packages do you need? You can say we like to include one for everyone who's included in the involved in the purchase discussion. We do that when we get to a certain point for some of our products. When we do formal proposals, we want to know who all is going to need a copy of the proposal, and we can use that question to kind of ferret things out and say, tell me who these people are and what their role is so that I know what information to include for that person. So I have a reason to want to know other than just being nosy, but it also helps me establish that these are people that have the authority to make a purchasing decision.
In rare instances when you can't glean it from that, you can ask the question.
Oh yeah, just ask.
Just ask.
Who will be involved in this decision? There is nothing wrong with that. Probably not in your first conversation, or at least not in the first 10 minutes of the first conversation, but at some point you'll want to directly ask, are you going to be consulting with anyone on this? Those kinds of things. Other clues. People with authority tend not to be overly positive. That was another clue that our tax attorney missed, right?
Yes.
If people are just gushing about your products and services, it's very likely that they are not the right person to be talking to. That makes us very suspicious when people are very complimentary, which doesn't mean that you should stop being complimentary, because I do love it. But if someone is in a consultation and they just love everything that you say, that certainly becomes a concern. People who are in authority tend to get to the point. They don't want to spend a lot of time. They're not on someone else's dime. They're on their own dime. And so they're not going to waste a lot of your time in the process as well. They do slow down and breathe, which is something that I need to work on. But they tend to speak more slowly and have more spaces in their conversations than people who are not, that has something to do with age as well. A lot of Generation X, Generation Y people speak very quickly, even if they are CEOs or whatever. So that one can trip you up. People in authority tend to use more humor and warmth in their conversations and in their interactions than people who are lower down on the food chain. That was surprising to me, but it's been true since we started working in this industry. People who are high net worth and ultra high net worth people, very warm, very caring people. They ask about your kids. They're very nice folks in general, and they are not timid.
They can't be because of where they are.
Right, exactly. So once again, all things being equal, some of these things are clues. Any of these could be wrong, but all of them will not be wrong.
Right.
Okay. All right. So here's like a LinkedIn search of Boeing employees, and of these, I can get a general idea of how much authority these folks have. Simply because of where do they work, what's their job title, what kinds of things do they talk about, and who are their connections. So, there's a lot of things that I can discover from a LinkedIn profile. And if you think like a detective, if you ever watched the show Sherlock, where he can tell 49,000 different facts about a person just by what they're wearing and the way that they speak. You want to think like Sherlock Holmes when someone is requesting a consultation from you or information from you, or becomes a prospect. And there's a whole trove of information in LinkedIn in particular. That's the one that aviation professionals use most and are the most liberal with their information in, right?
Yes.
All right, so questions about authority.
You didn't mention gatekeepers, but this one says, how do you get past them?
Yeah, you want to get to people in authority. And there is nothing wrong, by the way, with starting the sales process with someone who is further down on the food chain. In fact, you almost always have to. A lot of times people will task someone on their staff with doing the preliminary research. So you do need to accommodate everyone and give them the information that they need and pass that gate, right? But how you get past gatekeepers in general, if you're looking for a list of high net worth or ultra high net worth individuals or people in a certain position in a company, the things that we found the most helpful are, one, targeting those people directly. Sometimes you can get their home addresses and send direct mail to their home addresses. That bypasses their reception desk and gets directly to them. Number two, if you send a package rather than a letter, most reception folks or assistants and other people, gatekeepers, are instructed to discard all junk mail. Packages are not, by definition, junk mail. So those end up in the hands of the person that you want to reach. And the third thing is, just basically make the gatekeeper your advocate. If you can get that person on your side and not sound like a salesperson, but sound like somebody who has some helpful information, that can really be a good thing. If you've done some research about your boss, you know some things about their wants and needs and schedule and things like that, and you know that they're going to be attending a conference this November, and you say you have some specific information for this person that they will need before this conference in November, you're more likely to get past the gatekeeper than if you just say, I need to talk to Mr. Important, right? Okay, so that's a couple of techniques. Hopefully that was helpful. I think we've got a couple of articles and checklists on our blog as well.
So what if you find out you're pitching to I think they meant lackey.
What if you find out you're pitching to a lackey? Let's not be politically correct here, shall we? Okay. It does happen, and there's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times people will assign someone on their staff to do the preliminary research. So if that's what's going on, you go along with it, right? You pitch to the lackey, okay? You give them the information that they need, and for heaven's sake, you don't think of them as a lackey. You think of them as a very important part of the sales process, right?
Uh-huh.
The way that you phrase things in your head ends up coming out in the way that you treat people. So, you need to recognize that that is a very important and legitimate part of the sales process, but you need to understand where you are. So, you can acknowledge to that person, okay, I understand that your role is to find out X, Y, and Z. Let me help you with that. And the more you kind of put your arm around that person and say, let me help you do a good job at this thing that you've been tasked with, the better you're going to do and the better they're going to do. So, the more likely you are to pass that gate and move up the ladder.
Yep.
Okay?
That works.
That works. All right. So let's talk about specifics. Phase 1 prospecting. We had talked about 2 tracks. Track 1 meaning like an information package, and track 2 meaning like a postcard. So you want to spend more money on people who are more qualified. So no surprise there. Here's some examples. Path 1 for qualified prospects. You want to do things like information packages, mailed newsletters, visits, phone calls, and emails. Basically everything that you can include in a reasonable and measured sales process, right?
Just remember that every customer has a cost.
Exactly. And that has to be commensurate to the value of the relationship that you are pursuing. So, if this is a person who's going after, one of our podcasting packages, which is one of our more expensive products, we will send them a more expensive information package. We will spend more phone calls to get back in touch with that person if we need to, and so on, than someone who's after one of our less expensive packages. So that makes sense. Path 2 for less qualified prospects or not qualified yet prospects. You can still send them emails. That doesn't cost you any more. You maybe want to send them mailed newsletters, but maybe send them quarterly rather than monthly. You maybe want to send them postcards and other inexpensive mailers, because these might be influencers, or they may turn into qualified prospects down the road, right?
It has happened to us.
It has happened. And we usually don't spend more than one outbound phone call on a prospect that we know is not qualified. And that's just kind of a courtesy call to say thank you for requesting information or stopping by our booth or whatever. But we typically don't go further than that unless there's a really good reason to. So, questions on qualifying people and following up?
Yes.
Good.
How much?
I'm glad you're still awake.
Hey, watch it.
Everybody is still awake, exactly.
Watch it.
Okay.
So how much should you spend on follow-up?
All right.
Dollar-wise, I think they're talking.
Yeah. Okay. Specifically, you want to look at the lifetime value of a customer for the product that you're selling, and some proportion of that should be spent on follow-up. Another way to look at it is, of your advertising budget, we recommend spending about 50% or not more than 50% on what we call advertising, the traditional prospecting and advertising, and the other 50% split between your phase 2 and phase 3, including follow-up. So, you know, somewhere between 25 and 50% of your total marketing cost should be spent on follow-up, and it needs to be in proportion to the lifetime value of the customer for that product. So that's the squishy answer. If you want actual numbers, we'll have to talk about your specific product and get into a real consulting relationship.
So what's the typical number of times you follow up? What's the typical number of follow-ups it takes to get the sale?
Okay, what's the typical number of follow-ups it takes to get the sale?
We have somewhere
a lot.
A quote, but I think on the average of, what, 12 to 18 was the answer?
Yeah, it can be 12 to 18 if you consider every email, every phone call, every greeting card, every newsletter, you know.
Every touch point.
Every touch point. It takes a lot, and I don't know that we could even put a number on it.
No, but somebody did. There was a website that had an ad system, and people typically give up after number 3, and the most sales are made after, what was it, 18?
Yeah, it was some very high number. It's more than you expect. And the only way to find this out is to look at your CRM and see how many follow-ups it took for you. So if you're selling jets, you know, if you're selling Falcon 800s, it's going to be a number. If you're selling $9.99 software downloads, it's going to be a much smaller number.
That would be a Falcon 900.
Falcon 900, excuse me. My mistake. All right. Okay, so checklist. We want to make sure that we're ensuring that people have an interest in our product, that they have the resources to make a purchase, and that they have the authority to make the purchase. And we talked about some specific techniques for each of those things, but you want to make sure that each of those is included in your sales process, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then you also want to have a path 1 for qualified leads and a path 2 for not yet qualified leads. Once again, we want to stay friends with all these people, whether they're customers or not. And we don't want to ignore anyone, and we don't want to drop anyone off the planet, because in aviation especially, people who are not qualified tend to become qualified, and vice versa. So that's our checklist. Coming up next week, we have a more sophisticated version of this same webinar where we're going to be working on specific techniques in your marketing materials and sales calls. So members,
which will be for members only.
Yes, members, we want to look at your specific situations. You're welcome to send us examples and questions between now and then, and we'll start working on your scenarios for your marketing materials and sales calls to solve specific prospecting and qualifying problems, right? Okay. We'll also be creating Path 1 and Path 2 campaigns for our members, so you'll want to come to that. That will be fun. All right, so we have a special offer. This is not for you if you are already a client or a member of our Insider Circle. This is not for you if $279 a month would take food off your table. And this is not for you if you are not willing to spend the time and energy to get customers. This is not a done-for-you kind of program. And this is also not for you if you don't play well with others. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If you are Steve Jobs or somebody with that type of personality, you may want to hire us for custom consulting, and there is not a thing in the world wrong with that. But if you do get along well in a group setting, and if you are willing to give as well as get, then this is a fantastic way of making some great connections as well as getting some great products and services. Right? So this is for you if you sell something in the aviation industry, if you understand that marketing is not magic, right? Okay. So the reason that we built the Insider Circle is because we found that a lot of our customers were getting more out of the relationship with each other, or as much out of the relationship with each other as they were out of the specific marketing tasks that we were doing for them. And it's such a great group of people that they can't help but benefit one another. So you've heard that success is about what you know and about who you know. That is probably doubly true in aviation, or maybe exponentially true in aviation. You can save a lot of time, money, and reputation by having a trusted group of people that you can run things by. You can also focus on what's relevant. You can ask people about things they've done that have worked or not worked, and save a lot of time and embarrassment. You also don't want to reinvent hot water. If someone has done something successfully in a related industry, oftentimes they are very, very generous with their ideas and their feedback. So this is the best group of people I've worked with in a very, very long time. We focus on one thing at a time. We take one topic a month, like this month we're talking about qualifying customers. And we go through that in great detail. And if you improve one thing a month in your sales process, by the end of the year, that's 12 things that are exponentially better because you focused on one thing. I don't know if you've seen the meme on the internet where people are chasing 2 rabbits. It never works. So chasing 1 rabbit at a time will really help you catch 12 rabbits in a year's time, much more effectively than trying to chase 12 rabbits. So one of the things that's included that is probably the most value in this process is office hours. For our silver and gold members, we spend at least 1 hour a month working on your objectives and your problems and your sales pipeline, and going over what happened last month, what was good, what was bad, what should we do different, and things like that. So that accountability really helps folks, and also the specific sometimes tips on how to tweak something a little bit. I think there's a saying that big doors turn on little hinges. Sometimes we can give you the little hinge that will make a big difference to you. We have a projects section where you can log in and get the recordings from your office hours, the tip sheets, the checklists, and other kinds of things that we offer to you. Destinations, this is done for you products and services that we offer at a discount to our members. Because we already know something about your product or service, it doesn't take us as long to get up to speed, so we can offer better pricing on a lot of our done-for-you services like websites and trade show assistance and podcasts and other things like that. We have a book club. We cover 1 book a month. Often the sales and marketing books that you pick up at the bookstore are written for something other than the aviation industry, let's put it that way. They're written for mass marketing or mass market sales. They're not written for aviation. They're not written for high tech or B2B or ultra high net worth or high net worth people. We have a briefing room where you can log in at any time and get into any of our webinars from the past, and also the tip sheets, checklists, handouts, and other things that come with that. And we have our Hall of Fame. This is where our members interview one another, and each of our members has a Hall of Fame page where their interview is posted so that we can get to know one another better and make better referrals to each other. A lot of people have gotten a lot of business that way. So outcomes of the Insider Circle, we want to make sure that everyone has a robust, predictable, measurable, and stable marketing system that improves each month. A team of people that you can lean on. It is much less expensive than consulting. Our normal charges are about $2,000 a day plus travel and expenses. Those have actually gone up, or will be going up this year for people who are not Insider Circle members. Okay, we have a bonus this month for our personal branding product. If you join our Insider Circle during August, we will include our personal branding product with that for free. And that's a $779 value. We basically go through each of your social media profiles with a checklist and look for ways that you are representing yourself really well and opportunities that you could do better in the way that you represent yourself online. And this is really important, especially since we're going into trade show season. A lot of people are going to be networking at these trade shows, and a lot of times when you make an appointment with people, they will go online and look you up on LinkedIn or Facebook to make sure that they're meeting with the right person. And if they find that your profile is missing a picture or maybe not as professional as they had hoped, they might cancel the meeting and you'd never know why, if they just don't feel comfortable with your level of professionalism given what they're seeing. Sad but true, people are shallow and we don't have a lot of time to make those kind of judgments. So if you're interested, this is how you get started. It's the shortcut is abci1.com/August hyphen 2016. And you can see we've got 3 levels there, the bronze, silver, and gold. The bonus is available only for the silver and gold levels. So if you would like to do the office hours and also if you would like to do the personal branding, that's available to the silver and gold members only, right? Okay, so it's risk-free. It's a 30-day money-back guarantee and no long-term contract. So if it's not for you, basically you send us an email and you lose nothing. There's no risk to you whatsoever. So if you join at the silver level this month, you get the personal branding free. That's a $7.79 value. And any questions about anything we've talked about as far as qualifying customers or the masterclass or the insider circle or the personal branding or anything else?
Does personal branding help with my personal Facebook page?
Yes, it does.
Or just business pages.
Or just business pages, exactly. That is up to you. We actually do include your personal pages if you would like us to, and that's Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Google+. A lot of people have a personal and a professional page. So we'll do your company page and your personal page if you would like. And the reason for that is because a lot of people are going to look you up online. They're going to find your personal page whether you want them to or not. So, we do want to go through that. We're not going to make you all corporate and funny, but we do want to just make sure that you are representing yourself in the way that you want to and that's consistent with your message and your personality and what you want people to see when they look you up. We didn't say questions about anything. Somebody asked what kind of coffee are we drinking this morning. It's Kona light roast. And it's beautiful. It's only available from, we have to buy it mail order. I can't get it from the grocery store here. Okay.
So do I have to do this in August?
Yes, you do. This special offer is only available in August. We get busier later in the year as we get further along toward NBAA. So yes, you do need to order it during August. If you want to schedule, like if you're going to be out of town for the rest of the month or whatever, you can schedule it now for September. So there's no reason you can't go ahead and make the purchase. Schedule the personal branding. There's a couple of meetings required for that, an initial meeting and then a follow-up. And we can schedule those for sometime in September or that would be fine. So we'll work with you on that, but the purchase does need to be committed in August.
How long am I committed to the Insider Circle?
How long am I committed to the Insider Circle? You are not committed to the Insider Circle at all.
Well, 30 days. It's
up to us to earn your business, basically, beyond the 30 days. So, you join in August, you decide it's not for you, you quit in September, you've fulfilled your obligation, and if you decide it's not for you, no harm done, right?
Is this just for salespeople?
Is this just for salespeople? No, this is not. And I know who's asking this question. It's actually meant for people who wear both hats. But we do have salespeople who are in our insider circle, and we tailor their office hours so that what we're doing for them tends to be things like mystery shopping, where we call them and record the call and go through it with a checklist. There's lots of different ways that we can adapt this depending on your role within the company. So it's for sales or marketing people, both would benefit from this equally, I think.
So I don't use Facebook. Is it still worth it?
Yes, it is. Actually, our longest checklist is for LinkedIn. And the reason for that is because in the aviation industry, in our surveys every year, people tell us that they use LinkedIn more than anything else. So if you don't have a LinkedIn or a Facebook or a Twitter, then it is probably not worth it. But if you have any of the three, especially LinkedIn, then it's absolutely for you. Or if you don't have any of the three and you think you should, this is a really great opportunity to have us help you set up all those profiles, right?
Yes. What's the difference between the levels?
What's the difference between the levels? Okay. Bronze does not include the office hours, and it does not include our book club. We don't send you books every month. We also don't send you our transcripts and recordings of everything. You just get those electronically. So if international people, the bronze level works really well for them if they don't want to deal with postage or anything else. Silver levels really are our very best deal, in my opinion, because it is the cheapest way to get consulting services, right? The gold level actually has some custom consulting. So a lot of organizations will hire us for the gold level because they want us to do this same webinar except customized for them. So, we look at qualifying customers for XYZ company and, tailor this presentation for that company. So if you're an individual or if money is a concern, I'd say the silver level is probably the thing to do, right?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, I know we're over time. I wanted to make sure that we had at least an hour of absolute value for you guys before we started with our special offer. But if we are done with questions, we'll go ahead and sign off.
Yes, we are, and we can see you all next time around.
Absolutely, right. Thank you very much for coming. We're glad you were here.
You could.